6670.
Hey, how is the monster that...
Multiplex 8-track.
When hell was in session.
Incredible bench top.
Under 17 not admitted without parents or guardian.
Yeah. Yeah. What he means to say is, good evening, fans of fantastic films, and welcome once again to the Drive-In Asylum double feature. I'm Bill Van Ryn from fanzine Drive-In Asylum and Facebook page Groovy Doom.
Hi, I'm Sam from BNS About Movies, and next to me is our special guest tonight, Joseph Zaso, who is the director of Guilty Pleasures, now out from Vinegar Syndrome, as well as a ton of other stuff that you're going to learn about tonight. So welcome to the show, Joe.
Hi, everyone. How are you? I just have to remember where to look because I know look down, look up, look down. Either way, hi there.
It's
like the Brady Bunch.
Blocks
Great
too,
to be
so
here.
you'll move into different blocks, and you'll have to like switch the way you're looking. You'll get kind of
Like
constricted.
being on the Brady Bunch from hell.
Yeah,
It's like, like look that way, look that way.
We're going to keep you guessing, Joe Zaso.
Where's Alice? That's my question.
She actually used to live outside of Pittsburgh, which is crazy. She lived in Swickley or Ambridge.
Andy Davis?
Yeah, for the last couple years
Yeah.
of her life. Like, she was in like a church commune kind of setting there.
Mm-hmm.
And she lived there for like the last 7 years of her life and just would occasionally come out and people would see her at the shopping malls and stuff. It was a
like,
big
hey
deal.
there.
Yeah.
I remember when she used to do this rice commercial, she would go 5. That was always like her big, like, I could make it in 5. That's when she was at the height of her, popularity. But
now I'm going to have to go look it up.
I think you can find it on YouTube easily. I don't know if it was Minute Rice or somebody just said, the kids kept doing that to me all night. I was like, all right, already, I'll look it up. But yeah, we miss her.
I'll never miss a chance to
These
saw
legends.
Andy Davis. Yes, we sure do.
My favorite Brady Bunch is the one at the end, the 90s Brady Bunch, which was super serious, where they all suddenly got problems after decades of never having problems. And it was like super dramatic.
You mean the show or the movie?
The show one.
Oh God, Marsha was drinking and she looked at a picture of her kids on her key ring or something like that. Was her reminder to stop drinking or something. Yeah. It was like, it wasn't even the right Marsha.
It suddenly became 30-something like out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I was not ready for it.
That was pretty sick, actually.
Yeah.
Even though it's a Brady Bunch, it's like it's the same show anyway. It's like Wednesday, the new show Wednesday. It's like it's any teen angst show. It's just if it wasn't for her, it'd be somebody else. I mean, it's good, but at the same time, it's nothing groundbreaking. At least I think. But
well, tonight we're going to talk Demons 2 for our first movie, which is, I guess it's maybe not as groundbreaking as Demons, but it's still pretty fun. What I like about this movie is we're just supposed to assume that maybe demons happened, and everybody kind of got their shit back together 7 or 8 months later. And me, I'd be ready all the time, but nobody's ready for what happens in this movie.
It stands alone, because really, except for that little opening monologue, the movie really it could be all by itself.
Yeah, I don't understand. Even after seeing the movie so many times, I'm still not clear about whether or not Demons was supposed to have happened for real, or whether it was just a TV movie that they were watching, like a War of the Worlds style thing, and somehow it happened again.
They whipped it
for
together.
real.
I understand because Demons 1 was so successful in Italy on its opening weekend that literally, I think Dario picked up the phone at the end of the weekend and just said to Umberto, "We got to get the gang together and make part 2 right away." So they just kind of, it's the same plot. They just kind of grab whatever they could. That's what I'm saying. That's why so many things are unclear. It's because they didn't really think it out. They just kind of said, "Hurry up, we got to get out for next October." It's basically.
I'm interested to see if you guys think that this movie is lesser than the first film, or what is your opinion? Like, if you compare it to the first one, is it as good as Demons?
You want to go first, or? I think the original Demons technically is better, but it's also the second Demons has a slicker look about it, just because it looks like it's all shot on studio sets. Maybe that's why. But the second one is a little easier to understand. The first one is just off the wall, but I think the first one is definitely more fun, though. It's more creative and more the music and everything else is just so much more inspirational.
I've definitely seen the first one more. I don't know what that means. I know that I've watched the first one. Oh God, I can't count. The second one I've watched it a fair amount of times, but nowhere near like the difference is like way different.
Mm-hmm. Well, Demons 2 started to look like all of Lamberto's movies at the time. He had this whole deal of TV movies, and they all had the same look. They all had the same blue lighting, the same music by Simon Boswell, same actors. and it had almost like a very, I want to say low key, but it just had like a very generic feel to all of them. They were well made, but at the same time, they played it safe. They just had their limitations, so they weren't as experimental as say like a Dario's own movies that he directed.
Yeah, I always notice that, especially as you get once he starts making almost exclusively TV movies, it's really hard to tell which one you're watching. Sometimes it's easy to get mixed up about them.
Like Graveyard Disturbance and
That's the one I was going
Mark
to
of the
use.
Devil,
Yeah.
they're all like one after the other. They all look and sound alike, except
Yeah.
Photos of Joya, which was a theatrical, and that I like very much. There's Delirium here, but that's a fun one.
Yeah.
It's
that at least has some wild makeup, especially like I like that he subverts the Giallo trappings of it by a woman has a giant eyeball for her face at one point.
It looks like an insect. That's basically what they are to him. And of course, you see the light going like it's like he's breathing. It turns red. It turns blue. So it's garish and it's ridiculous. But yeah, it's what makes it fun. It's you got Darren Nickelodeon going the whole movie. Without that
for like 30 seconds, and he's on the poster, and I'm like, you're barely in this movie.
She had a hard time living down all that screaming at the end of Tenebra. Like she screams and screams and screams. So after that, that's a tough act to follow.
Ozzy has the same scream sound. You're like,
she said that I've read an interview once where she said that she was ready to be out of their relationship, and that was her just like literally doing scream therapy at the end of that movie to get that noise. Which that makes a lot of sense if you see it with that in mind.
Well, he was acting up on the set. If you listen to the DVD and in the interviews, they said how Dario was like annoyed that Tony Franciosa was kissing his wife, but he wanted her to kiss his wife in the movie. So it's like, what are you getting upset about? They weren't doing anything inappropriate, Yeah. So it's like I was saying before about how when directors hit 40 around that early time, they just start getting crazy and they start treating their wives badly. It's I don't know if that's just a thing or is it just
Well, it could be worse. Like Argento's first wife, whatever Cat at Nine Tails finished, she looked at him in the theater and was like, or Four Flies. She looked at him in the theater and she's like, "Was that about me?" And he's like, "Why would you think that?" It's like, well, the actress looks like me, and you think the actor looks like you, and it's all about a wife ruining her husband's life, and she just couldn't stop crying at the premiere. And he's like, "Yeah, I probably should have thought about that before I did that."
Oh wow, that's Fiore's mother. Yeah.
Also,
I forgot her name, but
Fiore always gets a short end of the stick. Like Aja gets to be the star. Fiore gets her head cut off and sent down a river in the first minute.
They said
that scene always freaked me out. I was like, it's hard to even tell that it's a head going down. In a theater, I would have been baffled by that, but luckily I first saw it on VHS and I could rewind. Like, oh, that was her head.
Yeah.
We always laugh when she's running through Fiore's running and she goes to that pane of glass. It looks like something of Disneyland or something. And like, what is this thing? They just put it there obviously so she can fall back and cut her face up. But it's like, where are we? Are we in like the enchanted rainforest or something?
Well, it was a precipitous drop, so maybe the glass was there to keep people from leaning over and falling off the bridge. That's true. The way I took it, because then her head ends up rushing down the river.
Then they say, so you say she lost her head somewhere between 33rd and Lexington. Like one of those things. I gotta love it though. I fully defend Phenomena. As ridiculous as it is, it's got too much. And even to call it weird is an understatement because it's just odd. All the choices are so odd, and the blending of everything is so, it's such a weird mix of things that's why you just can't take your eyes off of it because it's like, wow.
That's one of the strongest of his films. All of his films have that atmosphere to them, but I think that one has it the strongest. Maybe even more than like Suspiria or something. There's even more wrong in the world of Phenomena.
Well, I think it's because this first time he went solo as a producer. So maybe because he was just answering to himself and he just did whatever he wanted, and that's down to the talking,
I love the stories about him making deep bread and him showing his father and his brother this giant Bible that he had written. And they're like, you got to get rid of a lot of this stuff. None of this makes sense. And that doll has to come out. And he was like, just like threw the script out of their hands and was like left the room. And he was like, I'm not changing anything. And even like the day they shot the doll, one of the DPs was like, I don't know if this is going to work. And he's like, it's going to work. And he's like, now that's all people talk about is that scene.
The dollar hanging?
Yeah. He's like, I'm right.
It's just a doll. I mean, I know it's so
Yeah.
unique, you know, what the problem is, but
Yeah, but it's funny though. Like, I'm really lucky that I didn't see Phenomena's US ones. I always wanted to rent the video, never rented it, and then like when I got to see the Italian one first, I feel a lot better that I didn't see Creepers first.
yeah.
Not that it's
Well, I saw
I can't
Creepers
even.
first. I fell in love with it, but yeah, I think Phenomena it has much. It's longer and it's slower, but it still has much more meat on it than because I mean, Creepers has a better pace, but too much is cut out.
yeah.
It just runs and it's done, you know.
I first saw it on a spinner rack when grocery stores suddenly got into the act. They were like, "Hey, everybody's doing videos," and like now your local and like for some reason this
Yeah.
grocery store had it, and it was always out and just always out. And then once they stopped doing it, it was impossible to find.
Oh, just
In the
that
days
happened to me with the
before
movie Spectres. You
yeah,
remember that was in my local Pathmark had that, so that's how I ended up finding it.
Spectres is pretty wild. That's awesome.
It's a good looking movie, but yes, it's all very pretty looking people and pretty sets, and nothing's really happening. You know,
Yeah. We had
My
talked
favorite
before
kind of
we-
movie.
We've talked before we came on that you feel that the one problem with this movie is the clothes, right? In the party scene.
oh they're by day they're in their their archaeology duds, but then suddenly that big hair and bows on their clothes, and while they're having a glass of wine, you know, it's
Yeah.
talking about man problems and
the party scene in this, everybody's way too dressed up too. I think that's maybe an Italian thing. It's like, well, now that we're not doing,
Yeah, their
We're gonna-
clothing choices are very strange in this film, and that's one of the first things I remember thinking.
Italian. That's
When I
what
saw it, I was like, "Who are they dressed like?" It's almost like they're business casual. I'm
yeah,
like, this is somebody's birthday party, and that I think she's what, like 17, 18? She's
Yeah.
really young. That is not what they would have been wearing.
no. Someone would say to me, "It's Italian," you know, and that they did say that. Enough said, but. But I remember even the movie Hollow Man. I remember at one point they're all in the scientific, you know, they're in the lab and they're all going out to dinner. And again, they're dressed to the nines, like to the point where it's like a fashion shoot or something. It's like, how do you go from one to the other like that? They're just going to dinner. That's all.
My wife just came in to inform me that in her French book in high school, there was a whole section of how to talk at a party, and all the kids in the book were dressed like they were in their 30s. They had sweater vests. They had on outfits like this movie. So maybe it's a European thing. I don't know. It is like where when you go to a party, you suddenly dress like a grown-up because you're trying to
Right.
make an impression.
Well, just like in the movie we're going to watch tonight, you know, Demons 2. I mean, I was saying before, you know, I know a lot of times, I'm not saying guys and girls dress up. Girls tend to dress up a little more than guys, but you could tell they got into the designer duds, like whoever, Nicola Trissardi, who was designing the costumes. You know, it's like guys don't wear suits and ties to a, you know, just a little house party, just like that. You know, it's like, it's just them. It's not like, you know, they look like they're going to a wedding or something, you know?
Yeah.
Like quinceañera, or however you say the big Mexican party, the Sweet 16 that they do. This is just
Quinceañera.
like an average girl's party. This is like a night in somebody's apartment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and Sally's in the other room anyway, complaining about her sleeves that go back and forth.
Yeah.
This that goes back and forth. Oh, it's horrible.
She needs her Prozac, you know, and then suddenly the TV takes her wishes, the key to the demons. She just suddenly, you know, it's like, you know, she's suddenly schizophrenic, you know.
Let us know in the chat if this is the first time that you're watching Demons 2.
I got an invite to the party too. It came in.
Sally.
Oh, maybe there's already blood on it. Maybe I shouldn't go to the party.
Well, wear something
Wonder if they've
plastic.
served the cake yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that came in the new Demons.
Take some
That's great.
antiseptic
That's
too.
absolutely great.
Yeah, I'm excited. I still love this movie, and it's got. I don't like the soundtrack as much, but there's some pretty good bands on it. The Cult's in it, and Fields of Nephilim, Dead Can Dance, Peter Murphy. This is kind of like where the first movie, other than
Gene
Go
loves
West,
Jezebel.
yeah, the first movie is the metal movie, other than Go West and
Yeah.
Colorado, and this is kind of like the dark wave goth night version of Demons, I guess.
The
Oh, that's why I
Smiths.
think the first movie feels more aggressive. It's louder and it's like motorcycles and all that kind of stuff. And this one's more, you know, it's more low key and elegant, but this is gooier. People are just drooling more, and you know, there's more, you know, slime and blood and all that, you know. So I think the demons look scarier in this movie
Yeah,
because they look just, you can see more details. The other one, people just suddenly get they start getting like these drawn on veins, which look effective for a second, but if you get too close, you can see it's all, somebody just doing the little. They don't even know if they spray painted back then, like the airbrush wherever they do now.
They get a little ambitious with this.
tattoos,
They're a little ambitious with the special effects here too, because there's a puppet monster in it that's not exactly the most convincing puppet monster you're ever going to see. Yeah, so you just kind of have to go with it. It's fun. And
even as a kid, I was like, "It's so squeaky!" Like what?
It's like a plushie toy.
I don't know if you saw it, but I posted on my Facebook wall the other day. They had it was from an Italian Sunday morning TV thing when Demons 2 came out, and they had some demons come on the show with Dario, and he had his little puppet, and it was making the squeaky noise. It looks better in the movie, I'll tell you that. You start to see it for what it is.
Most playful person to me, so it's funny to see him doing talk shows or doing appearances like that.
Mm-hmm.
But this has a really wild cast, though. I mean, there's a lot of fun people in it. I mean, there's some people that come back. Bobby Rhodes is back. There's what's his name? Virginia Bryant's in it, who's in Demons 3: The Ogre, which has nothing to do with this movie. Don't even.
Sadly,
I'm going to promise Bill not to get started about all the Demons movies and how they all.
Oh, you
up.
can, Sam. This is
Maybe
your show too.
A friend of mine said the ogre, a little girl is running for her life, and it sounds like a 40-year-old woman having an orgasm. It's like, It's like, that's what it sounds like.
The Ogre's got a great poster, though. You got to say that for it.
Oh, the key?
Yeah. You see the poster, and you're like, this is going to be great, and none of that, it doesn't really get it.
Yeah, this movie has some of the weirdest dialogue that you're likely to hear in a film, too. And I think that it's also an extreme example of that kind of thing, like where
Demons 2, yeah, it's like they
inappropriate things left and right. My favorite is when they're in the Forbidden Zone. I'm not going to give too much away, but there's a scene where characters are confronted with the corpse of an actual demon, and they've had an adventure getting to this creepy alleyway, and they find it there, and the lead guy, I guess, the one that got them into this stupid situation, is like, look, we've done it, we found a demon, there's no danger. Like, there's no danger. This is probably the most dangerous place you could be.
Even just walking along the wherever it was, like the rafters and things, that was dangerous, alone. Without the demon, it's. My favorite is still when the little Marco Vivio answers the phone. He goes, "No, Daddy isn't home. Neither is Mommy. I'm alone. Yes, goodbye." And I keep going, 4 writers, huh? You sure?
Speaking of phenomena, Davide Morata's in this. He played the little boy, Dari Nicoloti's son. Spoiler warning if you haven't seen Phenomena. It's like 45 years old or whatever.
You won't recognize him, though, but...
Yeah. And he was also in a really famous commercial in Italy where he played a child alien for Kodak. And I guess that was like a really sold Kodak at the time in Italy. So that's how he was known.
Because he was one of the few of his kind. I think he was also in the movie The Passion of the Christ. I think he was like a demon baby that was being held or something like that.
Oh, wow.
I think it was like, I don't know if it was supposed to be like a demonic version of the Madonna and Child, but they said that was David Di Marotta. I thought Marotta. Oh, of course, only known for one thing.
Yeah. And I know that Michelle Marabella, I know her from Thunder Warrior, which is a movie that I keep trying to get to come out. All 3 of them, but yeah, she plays a dancing crow, Thunder's wife in Thunder Warrior.
Thunder.
A movie that was like really big, I guess, in the American Southwest. Go figure, because the bootlegs of it showed up there all the time. But I really wanted to come out, and shockingly, in a world where every Italian movie has come out on Blu-ray, that's not one of them. So
I mean, it's still tons. I mean, I used to watch years ago when I was making one of my Giallo movies, 5 Dead on the Crimson Canvas. My friend, the director of the movie, Joe Parlin, I would watch once a week. He would come over and we would watch Italian horror movies to the point where there was so many. I mean, it's almost like it's in my subconscious. I mean, some of them we would watch and you would just, after a few minutes, you realize that's something that's just going to play in the background while you talk. And then there's some that you pay attention to, but there are hundreds of them. I mean, things I'm like saying, oh my God, did I see that? And I seem to remember it, but there's just like, there was no shortage. And, he would have VHSs and all kinds of, bootlegs of all kinds. And it's like, my God. And then now you see them on YouTube, you find them everywhere, but they're still buried.
Oh,
in
yeah.
the crevices, Oh, there I am.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is a book by our guests on tonight's program, Joe Zaso and Cafe Himbo and Friends.
My alias, I had to come up with another name for it. So a lot of people call me a horror himbo from all the movies I've been in, I guess male bimbo of horror movies. And I just tried to think of a name, and I said, how about Cafe Himbo? And what was just done as a little bit of silliness about 12 years ago it just turned into this brand, and it's just something I just kept sticking with. And it's like one of my alter egos. So I'm known for a lot of things, and that's one of them. But I like to cook. And I don't have as many people to cook for anymore because everyone seems to have issues one way or the other of dietary problems and this and that. So I don't get to have as much fun. But when I get the chance, a lot of times you'll see me make something and I'll just post pictures of it because I had to do something with it because, I had to just exercise my muscles, But it's not like it used to be. People just used to eat. Now everyone's got some issue somewhere for something.
I saw a pasta you did this week. It looked pretty good. So,
oh yeah, that was with the sun-dried tomato sauce.
Yeah.
That was actually, that was nice, And I see these a lot of times. I'll see things on Instagram, or I just see a picture of something in the magazine or Bon Appetit, wherever it is I'm walking, and I say I just feel the need to copy it and say, okay, let's do my version of it. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, and there's only one way to find out. But it's just you want to find that one special thing. It's gonna be a miracle food that no matter what you make, people are gonna love it. And sometimes it's just like the first thing you notice is what you shouldn't do the second time around, or what you should do. Or next time, don't use garlic, or don't use this, or put more salt in, or whatever it is. But yeah, but either way, I need to have a sampling session, and there's nobody to sample.
oh, man.
The cover was making me hungry right now.
This is your new release from Saturn's Core, Vinegar Syndrome, correct?
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's a film from 26 years ago is being made. It's called Guilty Pleasures, and this is, I guess you could say, this My Two Evil Eyes. There was 2 episodes. The other one was the one I acted in. Is the first one. It was directed by Joe Parda, who did 5 Dead, and I wrote and directed the second episode. And it was supposed to be more. I was going to be more of a series. It was going to be like a series of films that take place in the same building. But this one, at the time, didn't take off as well. So that's why we just kind of went on to the next project and never pursued it. But there was going to be more of a backstories to it, and it would be more, like almost like a. I think it was going to be more like a connection, almost like a series, like a mini series almost. Trying to H.P. Lovecraft. That's the name I was trying to come up with. It was supposed to be like little ties in that way, but it just was nothing more than just an interesting 2-episode horror film with tons of exploitation galore. So
you can pre-order this. You can pre-order this.
Yep, it just started this past Wednesday. It's coming out anytime now. So I think within the next week they're going to be shipping copies. I understand. So we'll see.
And not to get you in trouble, but this is not the last movie that's coming out in the next couple of months.
Nope, there's gonna be lots more. Everything's under wraps. I'm not allowed to mention the names of the companies and all that. So that's okay, but you'll know. That's why if you just keep looking at my Facebook page or my my joezaso.net page, you'll see I'll have my updates galore. Because as I say to people, we can't afford to put a billboard up in 42nd Street, so you're going to see me do all the PR I can, with all I have. So
there's a couple
especially with
things
social media,
There's a couple things Sam and I did, and we haven't been able to talk about it for so long that I've kind of forgotten that we did it. And I was looking through my old files, and I'm like, oh, there's that thing that happened.
All those ideas that never reach fruition,
Yeah, there are like 3 that are like done, but we still can't say till they announce them. So, oh well.
Yeah, just keep them going. That's all I can say. I might just be in just lays dormant for the time being, and then
And Bill, before we get to the ads, I wanted to say, if anybody really likes anthology horror, I really like Joe's 2 movies he made in his teen years, Scream Book 1 and 2. They're very creep show influenced, but they're really good shot on video movies. And that's how I actually met Joe, from watching those. And I reached out to him and said, hey, I love these movies. Like, let's talk. And got to learn a lot about each other, and got excited about him being on the show because he can talk horror like way better than me even. So I'm really excited about it.
I remember when we were talking, we were there to talk about my films and such. I don't think we were talking about them at all. We were talking about every topic, but we just kept having non sequiturs all over the place.
There's a lot of Amityville 2 talk, so that's
yeah.
Is anybody that talks to me for more than half an hour learns, that's perhaps.
More
There is
people should
there is
talk
the
about
Amityville
it.
talk.
Too.
More
Yeah.
bragging is because I'm editing a book on the Amityville horror movies called For God's Sake Get Out, and it's written by Brian Thomas Norton, my friend Brian, and it is going to if you ever care to know anything about the Amityville movies, I think these are all the information that's been collected is more interesting than the movies will ever be. I mean, it's just so much behind the scenes stuff and how things, the dirt behind the scenes and all the interesting Dino De Laurentiis stories. It's just that is far more fascinating than anything you'll. And I think I never thought I'd say this, but it's the whole Amityville horror thing is getting boring just because I'm hearing the same story over, and you want to do something else.
It
Yeah.
never will, because if it did, no one would want it.
It's just
I will
like
say,
keeping
if
the
you
fair
guys
this, that.
My favorite thing I've seen in your films is I mentioned to you before, but in Scream Book 2, there's a kids' party scene. Speaking of party scenes, there's a kids' party scene that will blow your mind. Like I've watched it like 4 or 5 times. There's guns that get pulled on kids. Like it's crazy.
Oh,
It's just whatever whatever you were feeling at that moment.
Yeah.
that is real. Guns being pulled at a birthday.
Even though I'm very anti-gun, but yeah.
Yeah. This kid, a lot of
It
stuff
turns out that way. That's what's funny.
It's really good. It's fun.
But
So, Bill, what do we got here? We got an ad for Demons 2.
yeah, it was theatrical in the States, but very briefly. I don't know I know there were one sheets, but I don't remember playing theatrically anywhere. I just remember it going right to Imperial Entertainment.
No, it played probably. It played in Florida, like in a couple different places in Florida, Fort Lauderdale, Miami. It was in New York. Obviously, it was in theaters in New York, or maybe not. Obviously, but
I don't remember that.
there was
I remember
somewhere.
the first one vividly, but not the second one at all. But
yeah, I mean, but you're right. It was very limited, and this was right on the cusp of when everything started getting dumped onto video. So it would just bypass the theatrical release to go direct to video, and this is often thought of as a movie like that, but it really wasn't. It screened theatrically in a number of places.
Oh, wow.
I think they do that just because they want to be able to say, the producers want to be able to say, fresh from its theatrical release, they may have written off some of the screenings if it didn't make much money or whatever, but I think they just wanted that just so they could say it was a theatrical release.
This is actually Demons, but I put this up because the co-feature was Unhinged.
Wow.
Which is fucking amazing.
Big Daddy
Unhinged?
in the theater before.
Secrets beyond the door.
Well, these ads have nothing to do. I am gonna fire my. There we go.
Yeah.
And Blind Date, right? And Lethal Weapon. My God.
That's such a weird. It's always weird when you think of when do genre movies play at the same time as movies that everybody else knows. I'm like, oh, this would have been one of my choices with Blind Date or Lethal Weapon.
I think is this a British ad? I think I see Odeon. I see ratings 18. Someone said to me, Demons in England, Demons came out on video, but Demons 2 went to theaters first. So I guess it did so well. Which I always thought was kind of interesting.
Becca's going to go see Blind Date.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to have to go see Blind Date with Becca. I know. That's a movie she loves.
All three of those movies, all I think of is big hair. It's all I think of. Big Kim Basinger hair, big, Mel Gibson hair.
This ad's wild, Bill. There's really nothing. It's just a black box.
It's sinister. It's absolutely sinister, and yet it says "Let's party."
Wow.
I'm sure everybody was stoned when they saw it. They didn't care less. They just, as long as something was on the screen,
Everything was on the screen. That was the problem. Lights everywhere, colors. I love this movie so much. Demons 2 really turns me on.
Yeah.
I love the I think the building is, even though their taste in design is, questionable from apartment to apartment, but especially the neon signs in, the main characters one, and they have these posters with, pictures of Florida, and big lips. I'm like, what is this? What's this motif that they're doing? What are they going for?
It's that Italian motif. It's like, oh, we could be in America, so let's make it so American that it is the most American thing ever. That's my favorite. Yeah.
I was thinking, instead of people eating Wendy's and having an American flag in the background to hammer home that we're in America,
Oh, or what do you call it? Nothing Underneath, when what's his name eats at a Wendy's in the middle of Rome. That's one of my favorite moments in that Giallo. It's like, why would Donald Pleasance go to a Wendy's just so that we know we could be in America, even though we're nowhere near America?
Right?
Edwin saw it in New York City.
Oh, wow.
Hi, Edwin. Thanks to
I remember
everyone
seeing
for hanging out
Demons
in the
1. I
chat.
remember seeing Demons when it came out. It was the same weekend here in New York, at least. It was the same weekend that Poltergeist 2 opened.
Oh, wow.
And I remember seeing both the same weekend. I think I liked Demons more, to be honest with you. And never knowing that years later I'd actually meet some of the people from this movie, but I just thought of it as a cool, like almost like a secret, because nobody else knew about this except for the horror fans. But there it was in the theater on a Friday night with a lot of rowdy, stoned teenagers. Yeah. I remember at the end of the movie when we think it's over and they start rolling the credits and they're going, bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. That's what they kept doing over and over again.
They were just mad that Bob showed up from House by the Cemetery in there.
Without the helium voice,
David brought up the Super Bowl party in Absurd. That points to me that Absurd is set in Pittsburgh. And that's why I like Absurd, because it's the Rams against the Steelers. Everybody's cheering for the Steelers. So potentially George Eastman could be killing people in Pittsburgh, which makes me like Absurd a lot, even though it's just Halloween.
You'd just be happy that George Eastman was in Pittsburgh.
Oh, imagine walking down the street, I run into George Eastman. It would be worse than when I talk to Joe Bob. I would just freeze and just walk away and just say, oh, I like you in movies, and then just walk away. I would get super
What did you
shy.
say? What is the beer, or the most famous beer of Pittsburgh that you said you would use?
Iron City, yeah.
That's it. I was there. BJ or B, J and B.
Yeah, there's J and B in it. There's no Iron City. Yeah, that's how you can tell. I have a whole subsection of Giallo called Yinzer Giallo, and it's like they're movies set in Pittsburgh that are kind of erotic thrillers or have elements of Giallo. Like Striking Distance has some because there's a killer announcing themselves with the phone, but they kind of have to have, like, instead of J and B, they have Iron City. They go to a place in Pittsburgh like the Gandhi Dancer or another somewhat famous restaurant. And also Pittsburgh has restaurants that have been around 70 years, unlike New York. So like, it's like, everybody eats a Permane Brothers sandwich with French fries on it. That's how you know it's a Yinzer movie.
Is it not just hoagies? It's other.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you say is the most popular food of Pittsburgh? Like, what's one thing that people, that's very characteristic?
I think Permane Brothers sandwiches. It's like a company that started here, and they put the French fries and coleslaw into the sandwich because the idea was
Goldbelly, yeah,
because steelworkers supposedly were so busy that they had to eat meals quick, or were just all really fat people. One or the other. I think it leaning towards the other. Also, we put French fries on every salad, and
yeah,
you get a salad.
That's the thing I would vote for as the best thing from Pittsburgh, because I really hate Permane Brothers, and I hate that it's so closely associated with. I literally think it is revolting food, and there aren't many places that I feel that about. It's like eating cardboard.
I like it more than that, Bill, but I also get the kibasi one, so that might be why. But I'm really showing my half Polish, half Italian side here. I see a lot of people mention pierogies too. Pierogies are a really big thing here too.
Are there a lot of Polish districts there? Is that what they have? A lot of Polish food there for the most part, or is it just kind of a little of everything?
Italian mostly, and then some Polish. But yeah, if you like pizza, welcome to Pittsburgh. Because holy shit, there's so much, and every pizza is completely different. It's like there's one place in town that puts cold cheese, like a pound of cold cheese, on the pizza. The whole toppings are cold. I don't know how this started, but they do it. There's New York style. There's all sorts of different styles. And then fish fries are really big right now too. We're in the midst of fish fry season for Lent. So even if you don't celebrate Lent, you can celebrate fish fries. That's a little bit. Thanks, Jeff. It's called Vito's. I can't remember the name of that pizza place. But it's there's a lot of fries. But really, like, Iron City's not good. I wouldn't be like, if you came to town and you told me, hey, let's get a beer, I wouldn't buy you an Iron City or an Icy Light. I would not buy either of them.
There goes our sponsorship.
I know. I fucked it up again. I would do, though, my favorite Iron City beer is in the 60s. They had a beer called Hoppengator that was half Gatorade and half beer. And the guy who created Gatorade helped create it. And the foam, there's Old Frothing Slosh, which was their other beer, and the foam was on the bottom of the beer. Don't ask me how this happened, but that's another one. But yeah, there's at least, like, if you want to get into a fight in Pittsburgh, talk shit on one pizza place over another. And if you're looking for a good fight, that's a good way to start a fight. I saw that Nick said that. Yeah, it's a pizza capital. There's some streets where there's 3 pizza shops on the same street that all hate each other. that are all from the same family, like Minios and what's the other one on Squirrel? What's the other one on Squirrel? Minios. Aiellos and Minios are literally a half block away from each other, and people will fight you over which one's better, but like they're arguably the same pizza. Again, that could also probably start a fight if I said that. But yeah,
there are a lot of pizzerias in Shady Side. This is one area I seem to know of Pittsburgh.
Not as much in Shady Side. Squirrel Hill, which is the next town over, there's a lot. Shady Side's got that's where my brother is, a pretty diverse mix of good food. There's actually a couple awesome Italian restaurants. There's one really good one there. Except don't go on Wednesday nights because the owner likes to play guitar, so he'll just randomly walk up to your table and start serenading you. And I'm like, cool, these gnocchis are great. I don't want to hear Lady in Red. So.
Downtown Pittsburgh, right near where I work, there's Giovanni's on one side of 6th Street, and on the other side is Cafe Milano.
Oh, yeah,
and don't ever get in the way of their drivers either from either place. They will tear right through you.
Yeah, it's very competitive, I take it, yeah?
I'm a Milano's guy, personally.
I used to go there when I went to art school, yeah.
What would you say is their style? Is it just that it's more heartier, or is it just that this particular one tastes better to you?
Giovanni's sauce is sweet, and I don't like that. It's too sweet. Like that's just my opinion. But no one from Giovanni's get angry, please. But it was.
It hits you. Yeah.
It's a Milano.
We're just trying to get any sponsors. If you're a pizza shop, we'll eat your pizza. It's fine.
We will.
Even when pizza is not good, it's still good. It can't be that bad. It's even Elio's little frozen pizzas still work to some degree.
Joe's showing off some pizza on the cover of his book.
Yeah.
Holding it like this. A friend of mine says, people don't hold pizzas like that. I said, this is Cafe Himbo world. You do all kinds of things in this that you wouldn't normally do. But it's like, look.
I actually had a guy right before the show started. I had someone come to the door with the pizza, and like our numbers are weird in this neighborhood. He's like, this isn't 600, and I'm like, no, it's 601. He's like, do you know how to get there? I'm like, no, I have no idea. So, but it was a Fox's Pizza, and I'm not going to take that. If you've ever had Fox's Pizza, that's one of the.
I love Fox's Pizza.
Do you? Oh, I don't like Fox's.
You hate Fox's? Oh,
I don't eat it. I would still eat it. I mean, I'm fat. I'd eat any pizza. But
Fox's Pizza is like the best frozen square that you got out of a deep freeze and put in a toaster oven. That's what Fox's Pizza reminds me of. It's really good. I used to get those little mega pizzas at Giant Eagle, like back in the 80s. That mega was the super bargain brand. And that was the best thing that you could get that was mega at the store, was these little frozen pizzas. Those things were fucking amazing.
This is every discussion I have with Pittsburgh directors. It turns into like, where do you go get pizza? And it's like, and it's always like, you could have, there's a place called Vincent's outside of Pittsburgh that is the greasiest pizza in the entire world. Like, you have to literally pour off 2 or 3 cups of grease before you eat it. They also probably, you get onions. Yeah, and it looks like a blob, and you'll get if you get onions, you get about 2 full onions on the pizza, like shredded. It's pretty wild.
For me, whenever I have pizza, it's gotta be cold and it's gotta have stuff on it, like some kind of meats or something. But I don't like it hot, like scalding hot.
You would like this cold pizza then. The one I was saying is like literally
room temperature. It's gotta be. They can't be hot.
Yeah, they heat up the pizza and then just throw on the cold ingredients. It's really weird. There's another place called Ambridge Police Station Pizza, and that seems like, I don't know if I'd want to go there because police and pizza. Let's not get political, but I'm not into it. So
it just doesn't sound like a good combination. Period.
No, exactly. Also, I'm usually higher drunk eating pizza, so I don't need to have any police around to potentially bust me out. Oh man, it looks like cocktail time, Bill.
As I see, I'm trying to see what we're
having. I'm getting very thirsty, so it's time to get up Sam Panico 2 on our screen. He's going to give us our first cocktail of the evening. So take it away, Robot Sam.
Where are we going?
To a birthday party at a high-rise.
Oh, yeah?
In Rome. We better get going. Luckily, I have this candle so that we can put it in the cake and blow it up. For Sally. She's going to have a lot of little kids there, and seems like some demons, so we better make some stiff drinks. That's why we have the amazing Hellacious Hellrise tonight. As you can see, the many ingredients. This has an ounce of vodka, an ounce of sweet and sour mix, a quarter ounce of one that I'm not going to try to pronounce, but let's call it Cointreau.
Cointreau.
Some grenadine, which I can pronounce. Quarter ounce of that. 2 ounces
Of OJ.
Of Target's finest OJ. I can no longer have pulp. Wait, I can have pulp again because I had my surgery. So, we're going to put these together and make the hellacious hell rise. Pretty simple, no shaker involved. We're just going to put it into this glass. So
Cup of ice.
Cup of ice. We're going to do 1 ounce of vodka. Tell them, Andy. 1 ounce of sweet and sour mix. We've combined the Cointreau and grenadine, and that's a quarter ounce each. And then we have 2 ounces of orange juice. Oh, demonic.
Pretty.
And then you take your bar spoon, or, you know, if you haven't bought a real spoon, I think you should have a bar spoon. You want to give it a nice stir.
Pretty color.
Yeah, it came out pretty good. It's like the eyes of a demon in our upcoming movie tonight, Demons 2. All right, let's take a sip. Oh, that is luscious.
You hear a demon in the background.
Yeah, a little demon in the background. Get ready for the movie? Yeah, I'll see you guys in a second. Yeah.
All right, so cheers, Pazuzu, and a big thank you to our guest host tonight, Joe Zaso, for joining us.
Oh, I'm thrilled to be here, especially to mention Demons too.
It was weird having two of me on the screen there for a second. I thought it was going to be like a Marty McFly situation.
Talking to your alter ego, or you know.
Yeah.
Another thing I was laughing at with Italian movies. I love the movie Autopsy.
Yeah.
And I mean, even for the most part, I mean, it's weird and it's fun, but also it is a very talky, you know, chatty movie. But there's some parts that get very Euro. Like at one point, Ray Lovelock's trying to turn her on, and she's looking at all these photos of this, you know, stag stripper named Nana, and she's like, Nana, what's your secret? And the pictures are talking to her, going, I took the initiative. And it's like, I love this because this is where you're like, I can't tell if they're being serious filmmakers or they just, you know, high off their, you know, seat or what. It's just the Euro way of doing things, but that's what makes it charming.
I always joke that my wife walks in during those moments, like in Enter the Devil, aka Eerie Midnight Horror Show, in the beginning when the mom is getting whipped with flowers. Why does it have to be in this movie? It has nothing to do with the rest of the movie. I'm like,
right?
It's Italian, and then just, you know, sometimes shit just has to happen. I always joke, it's like, well, it's for the foreign audience. Like, you know, that was the Roger Corman answer. He's like, well, that's why a worm has to assault you in this movie, because there's foreign buyers that want to see that. So can we put that in? But in Italy, it's just, I think Italians are just nuts. So
I love when you hear the voice going, "Oh, harder, darling."
Yeah.
In fact, that rose scene with the thorns, that inspired one little section of Guilty Pleasures. So there's always that influence everywhere. It's always like whatever I was watching, it just stuck in my subconscious, and I used it because I just felt I had to.
That's a Bill and Sam bonding movie. I text him every time I watch it. I'm like, this movie is amazing.
And that's it. I mean, that's a fun little one, you know. But again, it starts getting ridiculously talky and it gets pretentious, and it's just like, but it's, you know, it is what it is.
It also has Jesus get off the cross and have sex with a woman. How often does that happen in the movie? I've never seen that before. So I mean, you know,
she wears a little short, you know, mini dress to do her painting, and of course she's got nothing on under it, so he rips it off of her. She's like, oh.
Also, I love that, like every priest or nun that's ever been in this church has gone crazy. So let's just put some college students in there and have them just be in there unobserved for a while and let them play with paintings. It's the same as the church. It's like bad stuff has happened in this church for years. Like, who would want a job or jobs that bad in Italy that we need to work in the church?
You know, it's like doing what? Like you're taking a little bit of rubbing alcohol and rubbing, you know, frescoes. And what always makes you laugh again with Eerie Midnight Horror Show. One point she calls her boyfriend to tell her what happened to her. He goes, it's like late at night. She goes, can you meet me for a drink? And he gets there, and again, he looks like he just came from a photo shoot. It's like, nope, nothing look real. It's 3 a.m. You know, it just looks like, you know, just came out of the makeup chair.
I like when people just randomly show up with ascots and stuff like that. Where did you get these outfits? Like, these are amazing. I wouldn't know where to shop for an ascot or a boutonniere. I barely buy t-shirts.
So you go to a high-class men's shop.
Yeah, you become fast friends, Bill, with your little Zuni war doll.
This is he who kills. He is a deadly hunter. It said so on the scroll that came with him in the
Oh.
box.
How's Vivi
This-
feel about living with He Who Kills?
Vivi hates him. In fact, she was in here a second ago. I thought for sure she was going to start barking at him because that's what she did when she saw him.
It's just going.
She gets startled
It's
and
the
she does
teeth. It's the teeth that do it. You know.
these dramatic double takes. Like she does that all the time. Things scare her. I got Mark a balloon on Valentine's Day and she hated it. We had to put it in the closet because she wouldn't just stop. She just couldn't stop barking at it. It was turning into that kind of thing with He Who Kills, but I think she's calmed down.
Do you ever torment her? Look, like that, and just,
No. You know, if you make a face like He Who Kills at her, she reacts to that.
Oh.
She's really sensitive to facial expression, so that's probably what you're doing wrong.
starts
I mean-
crying and making all those high pitched noises, like.
You don't have to be so unpleasant, you know?
How did we get someone already has ascot advice for me? This is amazing in the chat. Werewolf style guide for all my ascot needs. Man, what if we come back? That would be amazing if I could come back to the next segment, be wearing an ascot. Suddenly I look like an Italian actor. I look like a Giovanni Radice, what's his name? And I'm like all of a sudden back.
You're very like you own an art gallery, like you own a little antique shop or something. That's so cliche. They all have to do that. You know, even though in real life they don't dress like that for their antique shops. You know, they just look like regular people. But it always makes me think of Monoloa Macadamia Nuts, like with John Hillerman. You know, it's.
I thought we determined that people didn't really dress like that. That was only for the plot of the film.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Scott, look.
I
Weren't we
would've-
talking about that last week?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Or when they tried to show what teenagers do, like in Phenomena, you got girls wearing Bee Gees t-shirts, and I'm thinking to myself, this is what teenage girls do according to a 45-year-old Italian man. You know, it's like
My favorite is in Ghost House whenever the ham radio operators are discussing who the most famous celebrities, like who's more popular in your town, Simon Le Bon or Kelly LeBrock? Like no one has ever had that discussion.
Or but to get back to it, specters before. This is another thing that makes Italian movies so funny. At one point, one of the women was going, "I'm going out of town with my new friend Richard," and there was a picture of Richard Gere, and everybody's making a joke like, "Who's Richard? Who's Richard?" Like in the movie, like this big mystery who Richard is. But also, there's one point where the same woman hears a strange noise, and she goes, "Is there somebody there?" And they play back the tape where she said that, and you'd think it would be the same exact sound, but she's going, "Is somebody there?" It's like, yes, typical. It's like
From another take.
I'm sitting there going, wouldn't it be exactly the same?
No one was paying attention during the dubbing. They're like, yeah, we'll just blow through it. It'll be fine.
They won't even know the difference. They say somebody in the movie Pieces. There's a scene where the secretary is, pressing a button, like the intercom, and it's somebody going boop. That's what it sounds like. They don't even bother with the sound.
Why has no one made the BG shirt from Phenomena? We have every other piece of it type.
Right?
If they made that BG shirt, 100% would be wearing it right now. I'd be like, oh, come on.
You can make it real easy now.
I know I can't.
I made a
wait.
boobs. If I made a boobs disco shirt, you could make a Bee Gees shirt like in Phenomena.
I mean, you made me a Marta shirt that I wore to that show last night. People are like, where did you get a Marta shirt? Like, I think that someone said, I think 7 people have seen that movie. And I'm like, well, you've met at least one of them now. I've seen it many times. But yeah, Bill got that. That was my Christmas gift, was all Marissa Mel based gifts.
Oh, Marissa, rest in peace,
yeah.
Marissa.
He got me the Marissa Mel 45 too, which is incredible.
She was
Ava
Ava Kent,
Maybe.
was that her name? Yeah.
Let me be your lady. Oh,
I know somebody who saw the movie Mahogany recently, and that's where she was in playing it. But that was,
Yeah.
but she still looked good in it, but that was not her best because that's what I think she was going through chemo at the time or something like that, and that's what she
Yeah.
was like, bloaty looking. But I tell people, look at in the beginning of the late '60s, early '70s when she was all in her prime, but she was taken too
Like
soon.
Deja De Blake is like to me, like she's like, wow, like that movie's that's one of those Italian movies where like nobody is on it. Well, Adolfo Seri, okay, but like all of the main people in it, nobody is unattractive in that whole movie. They're like, let's get the most John Philip Law, Marissa Mel, like let's just have the two most like. I mean, John Philip Law played Angel in his next movie, like a perfect being.
Right.
But I mean, like they got the most perfect people.
It's another way he never aged until even when he hit 70, he still didn't look that old. He's still like, it's like he's Benjamin Button.
I said that to Becca last night because we were talking about like whenever you meet people at conventions, like, and you haven't seen them in movies for a while, or they look old or not. And then you have like people like Bridget Lahaye or like Edwidge Fenech who are like never got old. Like, do you know what I mean? They still look like 10 or 15 years older than these movies versus like, they don't look like they're in their 70s.
Mahogany is fucking amazing. I love Mahogany so much. It was
Mahogany's
just fun. Oh, it's like, it's kind of like the Showgirls of its era, sort of like the kind of movie that it was so far over the top that people started to react to more to like how silly it was. And if you go back and watch it now, I think it plays a lot better than it did when it was contemporary.
Was that an HBO movie, Bill? I think it was on HBO a fair amount.
I think I saw it on TV. What were you going to say, Joe?
I was saying, for me, Mahogany, when I was a kid, that was a no-no movie, even though it was PG, because I was saying before, I said, you can see all the blood and gore you want, but anytime somebody does something adult, no, we got to change it. Like, all right, but
yeah.
I remember when I was watching it with Head of Lettuce, the drag queen comedian.
Yeah.
The scene that got the biggest laugh was when she came home from her wild cocktail party and she had the wax on her, and she's walking closer and closer. This is one long shot. She's slowly walking towards the camera, and as she's getting closer, the laughing is building and building because it's just like you just see this all over her. It's just like
it's kind of like that scene in The Bride where Robin Strasser walks through her wedding party covered in blood all over her wedding dress. But my favorite scene from Mahogany is when Diana Ross and Anthony Perkins are in the car.
Oh, everybody loves it.
She's like, all right. She makes that face. She's like, ee! Like
it's the Sting movie, The Bride.
No,
because I saw the weirdest thing last night at Half Price Books. I don't know why this happened. They had a kid's storybook of the Sting movie, The Bride, for sale. Like it was like a scholastic book of The Bride. Why does that exist? What kids wanted to see The Bride with Jennifer Beals and Sting? It seems like it's in the same way that why was there a Dune coloring book that I had as a kid? Like,
a Dune coloring book?
Yeah, I had a Dune coloring book. I was the only kid there. Like,
little kids don't read Dune.
Yeah, who's that kid with glasses that wants to color in sandworms? Me, hi.
The spice. I want to know.
My dad took me to see it, and like literally 20 minutes in, he goes, "What the fuck did you drag me to?" He's like, "What the fuck is?" Like, literally was upset, angry in it. And he was like, "This movie doesn't make any sense." And I'm like, "It's never going to." And man, he was not pleased by it. He didn't hate it as much as Bird with the Crystal Plumage, but he hated it a lot.
No, why? I still can't believe Bird with the Crystal Plumage was #1 at the box office in this country, beating Hello Dolly and all those others. I mean, I didn't realize it was that popular.
Yeah, Mike Justice is in the chats, the one that sent me that thing that I posted on your Facebook. It was like it's in the new Tarantino book. He talks about it being #1 that week, and De Palma was like, "How do I keep making movies? Oh, I should probably follow this format because like he knew like how Hitchcock did stuff, and he liked the manipulation of Hitchcock. He's like, I could make a movie very similar to this, and that makes a lot of sense. You and I talked a great deal. I remember about that. About man, De Palma and Argento are literally like very similar. Like you said, 40-year-old guys that flip out and start treating
same age, same everything. Yeah, they're just driven by their demons and their sense of style and all that, or style over substance or what have you. Even though De Palma's scripts are a little better, I think, but
yeah. And then at some point they both are like, I don't really got it. I'm not really kind of ran out of stuff, and
start cannibalizing themselves. It's like Raising Cain. I want to like that movie. I just can't. It's like, even Pino's music I don't like.
Which one's that?
Raising Cain.
Raising Cain. Well, also that's the one we're talking about. It completely rips off Tenebrae. And he's like, "Oh, I never saw. Yep. I've never seen any Argento." I'm like, "You sure?" Somebody that maybe your DP did, because that shot is the exact same shot.
The only thing I thought of was Garp. As soon as I saw that image at the end, I was like, "It's Garp meets Tenebrae."
Yeah. I watched it and it's like it's the hard part with late Argento movies too, where you're like, there's parts of this like Sleepless has like that really thrilling train sequence, and then you're like, oh, I remember when I first saw it, I'm like, Argento's back, and I'm like, and then he goes,
And then that was it.
yeah,
And then it gets kind of lame-ish. Yeah, it's
like,
it's all like bits and pieces here and there, but yeah, it's not satisfying from beginning to end. You know, it's
yeah,
If he just released that scene as a short film, people would have went nuts.
yeah.
Unfortunately, there was a movie around it.
That's what's funny. Is
yeah,
like
right.
after that,
They
scene,
got a plot. You know,
after that scene, I was like, man, why does everybody hate this movie? And like literally 10 minutes later, I'm like, oh yeah, that's why everybody hates this movie.
friend of mine calls it Argento's greatest hits. That's the title for it, because it's just all it is. This is my this scene. This is my that scene. You know, it's
And then he does like the other thing I don't like. You talked about Lombardo doing it. Like the Card Player and some of his later movies look so flat. They look like episodes of basic cable shows versus.
Oh yeah, they're
like, I know the budgets are low and I know it's a different world, but it's like this is the guy that had a crane fly over a building in Tenerife that makes no sense, and like you can do that stuff still. Maybe.
Well, do you think it was a question of his budgets changing? Like, do you think that's why he never had
I think
those
it's
indulgent?
somewhat budget, and I can't confirm that. Maybe joking, but like I also feel like maybe he doesn't worry as much about that anymore.
it could be that. That's part of it. I mean, I think the other problem is he started to blank. It seems like he wanted to get more into character-driven stories, but the problem is he's not a very good writer and not a very good director of actors. So when you take away all those cinematic flourishes and all you've got is story, that's lame. That's what you get. You get a generic-looking movie with bland stories and characters. You need the camera to start spinning around the room in order to save it in a way.
Well, he hates directing actors, and it's like, well, I would say Dark Glasses though had better characters, and like you actually care about, especially Aja's character is the first time I cared about one of his side characters, and you know I like that. It's again, it's not as comparable to his other films, but like there's some cool stuff. The water snakes, any movie those water snakes jump out of nowhere and start attacking people is pretty cool.
I like the music. I like I've been listening to that soundtrack for the past year. I keep playing it every day, you know, and you know, it's got a nice little opening scene and such. I just think the other thing I didn't like, without giving anything away, I didn't really like who the killer was, and the motive just seemed kind of lame. But at the same time, you know, it was kind of random, and that's what maybe would make it scary too, because that's scary about real life is when you have random killers. But it just seemed like I was waiting for more of a, you know, like a traumatic buildup, and then it turns out like, oh, that's it.
Also, a main character that doesn't realize you can't look into an eclipse, and we have to be like, oh yeah, this is the person we put our faith in for the rest of the movie. Blinded by an eclipse.
She's like, oh, my eyes hurt. Well, surprise.
Yeah,
that's another character.
Yeah, there have been other famous people that look directly into an eclipse. Yeah, so you know.
And then they become zombies, you know. It's like zombies who rip open women's blouses first, then they bite their necks. Yeah, it's like, and then a lot of the Italians will say, "Oh, but it's so political. It's so political," and they're like, "But it's not." You know, maybe in their mind it is, but.
That might have been what they were
like
thinking.
Nightmare City, it's like the monsters like really take their time in that jazzercise class. Like
you're right.
The infected, they're not zombies. I know it would really upset him if I said zombies, but that part where you're like, this is really taking a while. But you know what? At this point,
how dare you say zombies?
Yeah,
yeah. Even that movie had its moment. It was a little boring here and there, but there's some, like even the scene in the hospital where the lights are out and they're all trapped in the elevator. That was, you know, spooky.
Yeah,
but. You know, and it had like even the scene at the, you know, the end where they're climbing up the like the amusement park, and that was kind of creepy. But yeah, but then you get like in mid sections where people are just walking around the room, and you know, why am I here? Why am I here? You know, it's well, this pretty music plays, and it's called filler. That's what it is.
So I dropped the link to tonight's first feature in the chat. So make sure, or just go to YouTube. It's streaming on YouTube free. Demons 2. And that's going to be the movie we're watching first. Before we go to the movie, I wanted to bring up the Pittsburgh miracle that just happened.
Oh yeah.
Wow, I am still reeling about this, and I'm so I don't know whether I'm happy or sad or what about this, but there was a local character who, if you were in downtown Pittsburgh in the late 80s or early 90s, you knew who this woman was, and you had encountered her maybe like, you know, more than 10 times. Her name was Patricia Copta, but we knew her as Miracle Patty. because she had this very bizarre religious message that she would deliver to everybody, that she would encounter you on the street and she'd walk up to you and say, go inside for 3 days when he darkens the earth. And there's a video of her on YouTube. She worked at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh as an elevator operator. And at some point, I think the real story is she suffered a brain injury. And she was always a very devout Catholic, but after her brain injury, it became like deranged. And she started claiming that she had visions of the Virgin Mary warning her of the apocalypse and how to deal with the apocalypse. So she had this urgent message that she felt she had been, chosen to deliver to everybody. And she would go to sporting events, any kind of theatrical events. You saw her all the time.
Didn't you say Argento met her when he was shooting Two Evil Eyes?
I'm getting to that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In 1992, she just disappeared. She disappeared off the face of the earth. And she wasn't a street person, even though you encountered her on the street. She was actually a resident of the North Hills. She was married. She never looked like she was poorly dressed or dirty or unwashed. She had a marvelous Ann Miller hairstyle that was just amazing. And one time I remember talking to her in the 80s. And if you could, I know I'm taking up a lot of time talking.
No, this is good.
I'm sorry.
It's your show. You can do that.
If you encountered her and you talked to her, if you distracted her from that message, then you could have a normal conversation with her. And she was really very nice. She loved dancing. She used to go out to a local dance club called Heaven, and she just loved dancing. And she was very supportive of gays and lesbians, which was unheard of among
Especially
people who
Catholics,
identify. Yeah. I mean, she was a devout Catholic, and she never said one thing. I mean, I specifically asked her about it, and she was like, "Oh no, gay people are wonderful, and they're like the best artists and musicians and love." And she was this very super gay positive. And when she vanished, I really felt sad about it because, anyway, 30 years later, they found her. She's alive. She's living in Puerto Rico. And she's in a senior care facility there. She's over 80 years old now, and she's suffering from dementia, which, her mental state wasn't that great when I knew her 30 years ago. So,
I was going to ask how old she is now. Yeah, so she must have been like in her 40s then, I guess.
Yeah.
Or...
You had just talked about it on the show a couple weeks ago about her. And then when I saw it on the news, I was like, oh my God, like it was like crazy. It was like one of the top stories on the news this week.
Was she very off-putting? Would she like pin you to the wall and start ranting?
No, she was very non-aggressive, and she was very soft-spoken, and she's really she's a beautiful woman. I think she had a very natural beauty about her, and there was something about her that made you want to speak to her. So she never frightened me. I was only 18 years old. Or 19, and there were people on the street that approached you all the time then. Things are really not any worse than they were in the late 80s. Don't let anyone tell you any different. But it was just very I was always happy when I saw her instead of like wanting to keep my eyes averted from her. And I was sad that her husband had her declared legally dead, so she was presumed dead.
She's MIA. That's like poor Julian Sands, it's like,
Oh yeah.
I mean, we keep hoping he just has amnesia, that's the whole thing, is that, or he's, in a strange place, he doesn't know where he is, but it's unfortunate.
But you never met Miracle Pat, Sam?
I saw her in the streets. The one I really remember there was that really tall guy that had the megaphone who would just yell at you on the street corners, like over by
in front of Kaufman's.
Yeah, in front of Kaufman's, and he was just like, you didn't even want to be on the same block as him.
No, he was really weird.
Yeah, and he was like super loud though and very out of control. But I think I started school downtown in like 90, so I probably had seen her, yeah. And I went to Art Institute, so I don't know if she was still working there at the time or not. Because they still had elevator
sure. You have pictures of her anywhere, or you ever post them?
I'll find one while we're watching the movie, and I'll put it up in the second segment. How about that?
Cool. That sounds good. I was going to say, for Demons 2, you should have are we starting the movie?
Oh, no.
I was going to say you should have a drinking game. The lead actor, David Knight, who is a model, every time he does any movement, I guess, because he's a model first. He looks like Zoolander, like he's posing for every shot. So you practically hear like. So every time you get like every time you see him lean a certain way, have a shot, you'll be bombed within the first 10 minutes. You know, it's like,
Watch for
hey,
the blue steel moment.
It's like, yeah.
That's how you can tell Lamberto and not Dario directed this, because Dario would have like screamed at him, and like he's in his book. He also talked about the little girl who the redhead girl in
Nicoletta Elmi from
the ones. There's one scene where he wanted her hands in a certain way and she wouldn't put them in the way. So he said, I just kept slapping her hand until it hurt. And he said, now you'll remember to use this hand for the next scene. And he goes, I realized today that probably wasn't the right way to direct a child. But you
it was Europe, it was the 70s, they didn't care.
It's a book full of like really crazy growth. So that he's made. Bill, thanks for telling that story. I was so excited when and you said that Dario and
oh, sorry, I forgot about that. You tried to tell me.
Eyes, right?
You were getting to it and you forgot.
Yeah, when Claudio and Dario Argento were in Pittsburgh scouting locations for Two Evil Eyes, they met Pat Kopta on the street, and she, like, every once in a while, usually should say, go inside for 3 days, and that was just like her answering machine message that she delivered to everybody. But sometimes she'd change it up, and she'd say something else that had this apocalyptic tone to it. And she walked up to Dario and Claudio and she said, New York shall fall when Rome burns.
Oh, wow.
And they were so freaked out about it. And because, like, I guess they didn't realize she had identified them as native Italians. I mean, maybe they were talking Italian to each other, but she walked up to them and said that. And Dario was just captivated by Pat. And he wanted to put her in Two Evil Eyes. And he said he even considered writing a dream sequence just to fit her in. He was going to cast her as a witch in a dream sequence for one of the characters.
Oh, she could fit right into that whole flashback scene.
Yeah. I mean, that would have been amazing just to have her immortalized like that, and especially in an Argento film would have been so wonderful. But he didn't even
at least
dare.
A photo for his book,
He didn't even dare ask her. He was just too afraid to even.
He had used like people he had met on the street before in movies, like The Witch and Suspiria as a street woman.
Mm-hmm.
In the book, so it's like that makes sense. It's totally, It
was like you, Pavlos, the servant. He was the guy he met in the post office.
Yeah,
but it worked.
I'd ask that guy to be in my movie too, Pavlos.
Yeah. He was also the hand that came through the window. That's
that hairy arm that comes out.
Yeah, exactly.
Helena Marcus.
Sorry.
You want to hang your clothes up outside the window when Helena Marcus is out here. What are you going to hang up now?
I know my brother's a doctor, and he always said the same thing. He said, when she got stabbed like the second time, she'd be dead by now. Why is she still dragging and dragging? She'd be dead. And her heart's still beating. She's still alive.
Yeah, right in the heart.
We need to see her heart. We need to zoom into it and see it in her chest so that we know what's happening. Oh, man.
All right. Go watch the movie at the link that I dropped into the chat. It's on YouTube. And we'll be back with our special guest, Joe Zaso, after the film. Joe, you're in for the second segment at least, right?
I am definitely in, yes.
Okay. Well, we're definitely in for the second segment. So we hope you'll come back too with lots to say about Demons 2.
Enjoy.
Segment 2.
Beware of those sleeves that go back and forth.
Like this is terrible.
No, it's awful. It's awful.